7 giant sea monsters that might still be alive. The ocean covers more than 70% of our planet. Its average depth is over 12,000 feet, and we have explored less than 5% of it. Less than 5%. That means the vast majority of Earth's largest habitat, the place where life itself began, the place that still holds more biomass than every forest and grassland combined, is unknown to us, unmapped, unsurveyed, dark. In that context, the question isn't whether giant sea monsters could still be alive. The question is why we would assume they couldn't. Tonight, 7 creatures from 7 different oceans and 7 different traditions, 7 sea monsters that science hasn't fully explained, and 7 reasons to look at the water differently. Sea monster number 1, the Cadborosaurus. In the waters of the Pacific Northwest, the straits and inlets and deep coastal channels that run between Vancouver Island and the British Columbia mainland, there is a creature that the indigenous peoples of the region have described for thousands of years, and that European settlers began reporting within decades of their arrival. The Cadborosaurus. Named after Cadboro Bay, near Victoria, British Columbia, where sightings have been concentrated, it is described consistently across centuries of accounts. A long, serpentine body, a horse-like or camel-like head, a series of humps along the back, and a speed in the water that no known species of that size should be capable of. Estimates of its length range from 15 to 70 feet depending on the account. What makes the Cadborosaurus different from most sea serpent legends is the quality of the documentation. Over 300 reported sightings have been recorded since European settlement, many from trained observers, lighthouse keepers, naval officers, experienced fishermen, whose professional lives depended on accurate identification of what they saw on the water. In 1937, the crew of a whaling vessel reported finding what appeared to be a juvenile Cadborosaurus in the stomach of a sperm whale they had processed near the Queen Charlotte Islands. The creature was photographed before it deteriorated. The photographs, still extant, show an elongated animal with a distinct head, a long neck, and features inconsistent with any known whale stomach parasite or partially digested known species. The Pacific Northwest waters are among the most productive and least surveyed deep-water marine environments in the world. The Strait of Juan de Fuca and the adjacent channels reach depths of over 800 feet, with cold, dark water that supports ecosystems largely unknown to science. New species of fish, invertebrate, and marine mammal continue to be described from these waters. The indigenous Manhusat and Comox peoples, whose traditions include the Cadborosaurus under various names, have maintained consistent descriptions of the animal for far longer than European records exist. Something is in those channels. What it is has not been definitively answered. Sea monster number 2, the Zuyo Maru creature. On April 25, 1977, the Japanese trawler Zuyo Maru was fishing off the coast of New Zealand when its nets brought up something that no one on board could identify. The carcass was enormous, approximately 32 feet long, weighing nearly 2 tons, and had been dead long enough to be in an advanced state of decomposition. It had 4 large fins arranged symmetrically, a long neck, a small head, and a body profile that the ship's crew, experienced fishermen with decades of Pacific Ocean experience, could not match to any known species. The captain, Akira Tanaka, made the decision to photograph and measure the carcass extensively before returning it to the sea, concerned that the decomposing tissue would contaminate his catch. The photographs and measurements Tanaka's crew produced became one of the most analyzed pieces of cryptozoological evidence in history. Japanese scientists who examined the data were divided. Some argued the carcass was consistent with a basking shark in an advanced state of decomposition. Basking sharks are known to lose their distinctive shape as they decay, producing elongated neck-like structures from the remains of their gill arches. Others found the measurements inconsistent with any known basking shark specimen. The 4 symmetrical fins, 2 fore, 2 aft, were the detail that most troubled the basking shark interpretation. As decomposing basking sharks, typically retain asymmetrical fin configurations. The Japanese Postal Service issued a commemorative stamp featuring the creature. The Zuyomaru case generated more peer-reviewed scientific discussion than almost any other cryptid encounter in the 20th century. The basking shark interpretation is the current scientific consensus, but it is a consensus built on photographs and measurements, not on physical tissue. A small sample of fin fiber was retained from the carcass before it was returned to the sea, and amino acid analysis of that sample produced results that some researchers argued were inconsistent with shark tissue. The sample was too small for definitive conclusions. The carcass is gone. The photographs remain, and the debate about what was in those nets on April 25, 1977, has never been fully closed. Sea monster for 3. The Hafgufa. In the medieval Norse sagas, alongside the Kraken and the Jörmungandr, there appears a third sea creature of extraordinary scale, one that has received far less attention than its famous counterparts, but may be the most interesting of the 3. The Hafgufa. It is described in the Urvar Odds saga and in the King's Mirror, a 13th century Norwegian educational text, with a specificity that distinguishes it from simple monster legend. The Hafgufa is so large that it is consistently mistaken for an island.
God's help us,
Ships
it's alive!
anchor beside
Run!
it. Men go ashore on it. Then it submerges. But the Hafgufa doesn't attack the ships. It doesn't drag them under. It feeds by opening its enormous mouth and allowing the sea around it to fill with fish, then closing its mouth and swallowing everything inside. It is, in its essential behavior, a filter feeder of impossible scale. The filter feeding behavior is the detail that makes the Hafgufa scientifically interesting. The Kraken's tentacles and the Jörmungandr's world-encircling size are clearly mythological elaborations. But filter feeding, the strategy of opening a large mouth, allowing prey to concentrate, then engulfing, is a real and well-documented feeding strategy used by the largest animals that actually exist. Whale sharks filter feed. Basking sharks filter feed. Blue whales filter feed. The behavior the Hafgufa legend describes is not impossible. It is, in fact, the feeding strategy of the largest animals on Earth. What researchers find most compelling is the island mistaken for animal detail, which appears not only in Norse legend but independently in Arabic seafaring tradition, in Irish monastic texts, and in the Voyage of St. Brendan, across cultures with no documented connection, all describing the same experience of anchoring on what proved to be a living creature. The convergence of this specific detail across independent traditions suggests a shared observational source. The most likely candidate is the whale shark, the largest fish alive, capable of reaching 40 feet in length, and known to rest motionless at the surface in ways that could, at a distance, be mistaken for a low island or a sandbar. A whale shark large enough to be mistaken for land would be larger than any confirmed specimen, but the upper limit of whale shark size has never been definitively established. The ocean has always been willing to produce animals larger than we expect. Sea monster number 4, the sea monk. In 1546, on the coast of the Øresund Strait between Denmark and Sweden, a strange creature was caught in fishing nets and brought to the court of King Christian III of Denmark. It was described by witnesses as resembling a monk in its robes, a humanoid shape with what appeared to be a tonsured head, a dark cowl-like covering around its shoulders, and limbs that suggested the rough outline of a human form beneath the sea. It died before anyone could study it properly. Drawings were made. The drawings circulated across Europe, and for centuries, the sea monk, as it came to be known, occupied an uncomfortable space between obvious legend and documented encounter, because the witnesses were not peasants telling stories around a fire. They were the court of a Danish king, and the creature had been physically present in their nets. The sea monk drawings were analyzed by the Danish zoologist Peter Steenstrup in 1853, who proposed that the creature was a giant squid, specifically that the mantle of a large squid, oriented vertically, could produce the monk-like silhouette that witnesses describe. This interpretation has become the standard scientific explanation, and it is reasonable
This
as far as
specimen
it
demonstrates
goes.
how dramatically our
Giant
perception can
squids do
shift.
wash ashore
With
and get
specific
caught
lighting,
in
the
nets.
mantle takes on this
Their
uncanny
mantles,
resemblance to a hooded
viewed
human
from
form.
certain angles in poor light, do produce shapes that observers without a reference framework might interpret as humanoid. But the giant squid explanation has a problem. The 1546 sighting predates any confirmed giant squid encounter in European waters by several centuries, which means the witnesses had no conceptual framework for what a giant squid looked like, and no reason to interpret a squid mantle as a monk, rather than as something else entirely. They described a monk because what they saw looked like a monk, and a giant squid mantle, even viewed charitably, does not obviously resemble a robed human figure. Something was in those nets. The giant squid explanation is plausible. It is not certain. And the Öresund Strait, which connects the North Sea to the Baltic and carries some of the densest maritime traffic in the world, has produced unusual catches in every century since. Sea monster Dr. 5, the coastal horned serpent. Across the coastal traditions of dozens of indigenous nations along the Atlantic seaboard of North America, from the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia to the Lenape of the mid-Atlantic coast to the Powhatan of the Chesapeake, there appears a creature described with remarkable consistency across traditions that had no regular contact with each other. A large serpent living in coastal and estuarine waters, with a distinctive horn or series of horns on its head, capable of extraordinary speed, and associated with specific coastal landmarks, particular bays, river mouths, and estuaries, where sightings were most frequently reported. It was considered dangerous, but not mindlessly aggressive. It had territory. It had behavior. It was described as an animal, not a spirit. The consistency of the horn detail across completely separate indigenous traditions, separated by hundreds of miles of coastline, is the feature that researchers find most difficult to dismiss. Horns on a serpentine aquatic creature is not an obvious embellishment. It's a specific anatomical feature that multiple unconnected cultures agreed on independently. In the zoological record, there is a real candidate, the oarfish. The oarfish, Regalicus glassnae, is the longest bony fish alive, capable of reaching over 30 feet in length, with a distinctive crest of elongated red spines on its head that, viewed from above or at an angle in shallow water, produce exactly the impression of horns on a serpentine body. Oarfish are deep-water animals that occasionally enter coastal and estuary zones, particularly when sick or dying, and their silvery, undulating bodies moving through shallow water would present an appearance unlike anything else in the coastal ecosystem. A 30-foot oarfish, moving through a coastal estuary with its red head crest visible above the waterline, encountered by people in canoes at water level, would be one of the most alarming and inexplicable things a coastal community could witness.
Spoke of this sign.
It would be described.
It means change is
it would
coming
be
to the
passed
tides
down.
and the lands.
And the horn
The
detail,
horns were massive,
that
wider
specific
than 3
recurring
men
cross-cultural
standing together.
horn detail,
They
would
pierced the
survive in the
darkness,
tradition
searching for
because
us.
it was the most distinctive thing about what they saw. The oarfish is real. It grows to lengths that still aren't fully established. And the Atlantic coast has always had more in it than the records account for. Sea monster number 6, the stoorworm. In the mythology of the Orkney and Shetland Islands, the remote archipelagos off the northern tip of Scotland, where the North Sea meets the Atlantic in some of the most violent water in the world, there is a sea creature of such scale that it exists in a different category from ordinary monsters, the stoorworm. Its name in the Norn language, the Old Norse dialect of the islands, means great serpent or mighty worm, and great is an understatement. The stoorworm is described as so long that when it yawned, its tongue could sweep entire villages into the sea. When it coiled around the world, its body created geographical features. When it was finally killed, in a legend involving a young hero who rode inside it and set fire to its liver, its death throes created the landscape of northern Europe. Its teeth became the Orkney Islands, the Shetland Islands, and the Faroe Islands, while its coiled body became Iceland. The geographical specificity of the storeworm legend is what makes it scientifically interesting. The Orkney Islands, the Shetland Islands, the Faroe Islands, and Iceland are real places, arranged in a real geographical pattern that the legend accurately describes. A chain of island groups extending from northern Scotland into the North Atlantic, each one further north and west than the last. The legend maps actual geography, and the communities that created it, Norse seafarers who navigated these waters with extraordinary
Across
precision,
the black water,
were not
seek the
people who
shadow of the
confused
axe.
fantasy with
3
navigation.
days sail beyond, there the
They
dragons
encoded
wait.
real
That is
geographical
the way.
information in mythological form, because that was the technology available for preserving and transmitting navigational knowledge across generations. The creature behind the storeworm is almost certainly the same phenomenon behind multiple sea serpent traditions of the North Atlantic. Large, elongated marine animals, oarfish, giant squid, basking sharks, and possibly species not yet formally described, encountered in the violent, poorly lit waters of the North Atlantic and interpreted through the framework of available mythology. But the storeworm's scale and the geographical precision of its death suggests something more specific. The Norse seafarers who sailed these waters were the best navigators of their era. When they described a creature whose body formed islands, they were describing something that seemed, to their observation, as fundamental to the landscape as the islands themselves. The North Atlantic earned that description. Sea monster number 7, the Globster. On August 30th, 1960, on a beach at Interview Island off the coast of Tasmania, a bizarre mass of organic material washed ashore that no one could identify. It was enormous, approximately 20 feet across, several feet thick, covered in a fibrous, hair-like material, and completely lacking any recognizable anatomical features. No eyes, no mouth, no bones, no fins, no obvious structure at all. It smelled of decomposition but produced no identifiable tissue when examined. Local media covered it. Scientists were called. No one could say what it was. It became the first documented globster, a term coined by the naturalist Ivan Sanderson to describe the recurring phenomenon of unidentifiable organic masses washing ashore on beaches around the world. Globsters have since been documented on beaches across every ocean. Each one produces the same initial response. Witnesses describe an organism unlike anything in the known record. Scientists arrive, and a period of genuine uncertainty follows before, in most documented cases, DNA analysis eventually identifies the material as the decomposed remains of a known species, usually a whale or a large shark in an unusual state of decay. The decomposition process in large marine animals can produce shapes and textures so different from the original animal that even experienced marine biologists cannot identify them by visual inspection
match
alone.
The reference markers. It is confirmed.
This is the current
Absolutely.
scientific
The globster is
explanation for
definitively whale
globsters,
species.
and for most
I'll update
documented
the
cases,
database
it
now.
is correct. But here is what makes the globster phenomenon genuinely interesting rather than simply a solved mystery. The DNA identification process has, in several cases, produced results inconsistent with any known species. The saint, Augustine monster, a massive globster that washed ashore in Florida in 1896, was tentatively identified as a giant octopus by biologist Addison Emery Verrill, based on its tissue structure, then re-identified as whale blubber in the 1990s, then reanalyzed in 2004 using more advanced techniques that produced results the researchers described as ambiguous. Not whale, not octopus. Something biological of marine origin that the available reference database could not definitively match. The ocean is still producing things that wash ashore and
Sonar
don't fit the
readings don't match
categories we
anything in
have
the
prepared
database.
for them.
And this tissue sample
That
is
is
unlike
not
any
legend.
known species.
That
we need to
is
run
the
sequence
documented
again.
scientific record. 7 creatures, 7 oceans, 7 legends that the sea has refused to give up. The pattern is always the same. Something enormous moves through the water, someone sees it, and the world spends the next century arguing about whether it was real. The giant squid was real. The megamouth shark was real. The coelacanth was real. All of them were impossible until they weren't. The ocean is still 95% unexplored. Whatever is down there hasn't finished surprising us. The next video is already waiting. Don't go anywhere.